your host, Karabo Baloi, and here we'll be having different conversations with different people from different walks of life, and they tell us about how they managed to build their careers. Today I'm with a very special guest, Motlatsi Mkalala, the head of main market for Standard Bank South Africa. Hi, how are you?
I'm good, and how are you?
I'm well, thank you. That's a very interesting title.
Yeah, it is interesting. I'll probably explain it later what it means.
Yes.
Yeah.
And now you work for a bank. Is this your dream job? Is this something that you've always wanted to do?
Quite interestingly, I don't think it's something I've always wanted to do, because I think when you go to university, you have a different sort of way of thinking about your career. So, for example, when I started, I wanted to become a chartered accountant. And then I decided in the middle of my studies that I don't want to become a chartered accountant anymore. So I dropped out of that and I continued with BCom Finance. And then I was hired by the bank from the graduate program. And I think at that moment, obviously, I didn't know what's possible in the bank. So remember, we're coming from an era where when we think about a bank, we used to think about branches. So we didn't even think that there's a place called head office. So I think that process, when I started, the lens were that I did finance, so BCom Finance, so naturally I'll end up in finance. But 2 months into the graduate program, I realized that I don't like numbers. Not that I don't like numbers, I don't like monotony. So, because finance is that you run spreadsheets, it's very clear. End of the month, you run reports, and you do journals, so that's what you do. So, I get bored very quickly, so I realized I need more, sort of roles that are more unpredictable. And that's how I ended up here. So, meaning that the journey to what I did in the bank, everything culminated to what I do today. Yeah.
Okay, so you said you enrolled in some graduate program.
Yeah.
So after you graduated, did you intern for that program, or how did you get involved in that particular program?
So how it works is that in our final year at university, you then get a couple of companies coming through to sort of tell us what they can offer us and what they do and what their company is about. So I then applied for Standard Bank graduate program. So essentially what it is that it's 1 year. What people might think as an internship is not an internship, but it's 1 year of, they call it a graduate program. It's 1 year of rotations within the bank. So you go through different departments. But part of that is just to understand who you are, figure out what you like, and eventually after a year, when you get placed to a role, then it's something that you really like, because when you come into the bank or into the world of work, you start off without knowing what exactly it is that you like. You know that I went to study and then I've got a degree. Beyond that, you don't know your personality. You think you know it, but once you get to work, it's different. So that process was just to help us to get to that level of understanding of what we like, and then you can choose where you want to be. So that's the ethos of that program. Otherwise, it's and the program itself, it's sort of a full-time employment from day one. Okay. It's not a thing of saying you are 1 year, then you are out. No, it's just that 1 year. Let's call it an orientation, essentially, of the bank in that 1 year. Then the following year, you start being placed onto a role where now you start being productive.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's not like you're interviewing, you have employment.
You have employment. So you've already interviewed. So the way it would happen within the graduate program, you go through a very rigorous interview process. And then once you get selected, you are employed. It's just that 1 year is almost like an orientation, because you don't know what you don't know. So you're fresh from university, you've never worked before in most cases. So it's just to help you to find yourself. So yeah, but you'd have gone through an interview already. Yeah.
Well, that's very lucky, considering the unemployment rate.
Yeah.
Really, how many people do they take in this program?
They would take probably about 120 people every year. And also it's got different programs. So in my time, at that time, I think in 2006 when I interviewed, I started my role in 2007. I was in what we would call the PPB program, which is Personal and Business Banking Program. Then you've got the Corporate Investment Banking Program. Then you have the IT program. Then you have compliance, risk and compliance program. So all of these 120 people are within these different programs that will be running at the same time.
So tell us about the role that you were playing or the job that you had in 2006, 2007.
Yeah, okay. So I started 2007 because 2006 it was my final year, so doing my third year. So when I started, essentially, or where I ended up being placed, I was placed as a product analyst in home loans. So essentially, product analyst means that I go and help the product manager, so I report to a product manager, and I help them build the products, home loan products. So I would have to go research, what's happening in the markets, do competitor analysis of the other banks' products and compare them to ours. Look at the different pricing strategies of these home loans, and then so put this information together in order for the product manager to do the development of products. And then I would do analysis as well of the performance of the products, i.e., let's say we would check how many people have applied for home loans, how many did we approve, how many did we decline, those that were approved, how many did take those loans. And then also check how are those loans performing. Are people paying as they promised, or they're not paying? So I would do those analysis again, bring to the product manager for him or her to take decisions around strategies they may want to take. So that was my first job, and I really loved it because it was different every day. So it was not a matter of you come to work and it's clear that okay, I come here, I crunch spreadsheets. No, every day was different. And I stuck to product. So from there, I became a product manager.
Okay.
And in actual fact, there's an interesting story to this. So when I started as a product analyst, I actually asked my boss then, what would it take for me to be promoted in 12 months to be a manager? So the way the structure works, you're a product analyst, then the next role is a junior manager.
Okay.
She was taken aback by it because nobody ever asked such questions. You get employed to do your job and then you hope for the best. And then she laid it down to say, this is what I need to do over and above the work that was technical to the role. I was introduced to brand management, so personal brand management, right? So, and that is more around how do you want people to perceive you at work? How do you show up so that they can see what you want them to see, as an example. And then 12 months later, I was promoted to be junior manager.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. That was easier than I thought it would be.
Yeah. No, the work was tough in between, so it was not easy, but it was tough, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So after being promoted, did you have a very clear understanding or direction of where you wanted to see yourself in a couple of years?
Yeah. No, absolutely. So one of the things that I always thought about working in a bank was how do I use where I am to make a difference to people in general. So, and when I say people, I always think about where I come from. So I come from a very poor background. I grew up in Tembisa, and then I grew up in Ivory Park. And then I always think about if I'm employed and I've got these skills, how do I use that to empower or change the situation around spaces that look like where I come from? So that's one element. So, and that becomes very important in how I choose my career and how I choose where I go in my next steps. So essentially in home loans, one of the things that I was very clear that I want to do is exactly that. So what do I mean about it? So if you think about where we come from, not a lot of people, earn salaries or they're employed, or if they've got homes, if you think about a person with a RDP home, they would not understand the value of that home, and what they can do with that home to unlock additional value. How they could potentially mortgage it so that they can start a business, right? They would not know all of that. But for me, it was important that now I take that knowledge and say, how do I make sure that people understand the value of these properties that they have and what they can do with it? I always say, I'll make an example with my mother and say, my mom got an RTP home. As a single mother with an RTP house, she would not know that actually she could get value out of that home to take me to school, as an example. But a suburban person who's, let's say, a white mother, similarly situation, single mother with kids that you need to take to school, she would know and understand that I can mortgage this and then get money and pay for the tertiary education of my kids, and then just pay monthly installments to that home. So part of the work that I would do eventually was to do what we call consumer education in a department called affordable housing, because I ended up in that space as well. And that's how I started to say, okay, how do I link what I do to purpose? So that's the story around how I started to develop where I want to be in my career and my role. And that narrative of making a difference still exists today, and in the role that I do as well. That how do I make sure that I help people achieve their dreams and make sure that they can be able to live better than their parents, and so that's the job I do as well today.
So, from being the manager, how did you become what you are today, the main market head? How did that come about?
So when you do career planning, particularly for me, I do 5-year plans. So I would say in the next 5 years, where would I want to see myself? I'll be very clear, and then start putting plans of how would I get there. So which means which roles do I need to get in the bank that will prepare me to get to that 5-year dream. So in home loans, essentially within the bank, when you look at the bank's balance sheet, you've got home loans, which will be on the what we call liabilities. We'll call it asset. It's on the asset side, and then you've got the funding, which is when you open your savings account or you open a fixed deposit account. Those we call liabilities. So because I already understood the asset side of the business, because I was in home loans, I then had to make a choice of moving to a department that's about the funding of these home loans, which is the liability side. So I then headed up a division called Savings and Investments as well. So, and part of it was for me to make sure that I'm well-rounded in understanding how the bank works and how it operates. And within that space, once I finished with that stint in savings and investments, I was then asked to come and join a team. There's a department we used to call inclusive banking. And inclusive banking at that time, the mandate was that how do we make sure that we include or we bring the people who were previously excluded from banking into banking. And again, it's still aligned with that purpose of saying, I want to make a difference. So, and in that role, all we had to do again is to think about how do we make sure that to build offerings or products that they previously excluded, can be able to participate in the economy. And we've done that successfully as well. And then from there, I then had to choose another career path, which in the bank, you've got the head office and then you've got the branches. Then I decided to come to the front now. When I say coming to the front now, I'm going to take the products that are being prepared or being manufactured in head office and sell them to the public. So I was then heading up Tshwane, Standard Bank Tshwane. And there all my role was to make sure that, I lead a team of branch managers, a team of private bankers as well. And in there, my job was to make sure that, we represent Standard Bank in a way that we are out there selling, promoting the brand, making sure that we get customers in, dealing with customers' complaints, making sure that we've got the best client experience when they come into our branches, including our private banking clients, ensuring that the private bankers are able to interact with our clients as required. So that was the role. But then again, that part of it was again, to make sure that I get this full understanding of how the bank operates. And then from there, then I was ready to come into this role, which I'm in now, where I'm the head of main market. And the importance of it is that when I then look at how we build customer value propositions, that experience that I started with as a product analyst and ending up in the front line to sell, it's quite important now, because when I decide what solutions we should be building for customers, now I understand how they need to be sold, the person in the branch who's talking to the customer, what they should say and how they should, engage with that customer. And also ultimately making sure that we also, are profitable from a shareholder point of view, because we have to make sure that, we return, we produce good returns for shareholders. So all of that has helped me to get to this point.
So basically, you've managed to cultivate a career that would be multifaceted in the banking world.
Correct.
I saw something about taxi payments.
Yeah.
Is that something that you did in that space?
Yeah, no, it's what we're doing now. So part of the work that we do when we look at customer value propositions, so we go and understand what is a customer problem, and then say, how might we solve that problem? And one of the sort of insights around that taxi offering, as an example, was to say, okay, what is the problem the customer is trying to solve? So customers wake up in the morning and say, or people wake up in the morning and say, I go to work and I want to get to work on time. So now I have to think about, how do I enable you to get to work on time? And part of it is that, it'll be great for people to wake up and get into the taxi and not having to think about, I need to go to ATM and find money, I need to find change first in the morning, because all of those lead to you not getting to work on time. So essentially it's us saying, let's find a solution to help our customers there. But also we do know that our customers that we're dealing with, the last week of the month, they run out of transport money. So now they go get expensive loans, like they will go to a mashonisa. So the solution is to help them budget and make sure that that money for transport is separated from everything that you do, and that it's a monthly transport money that's saved. So that's exactly what the solution is about. There's more to it, but yeah.
Well, that's really tying into making a difference.
Again, yeah.
Because you're catering to that underprivileged market.
Yes.
Which is, I like that it's all cohesive.
Yeah.
I love that. It shows that you're very consistent. So let's talk about the qualifications that you've managed to achieve up until this point.
Yeah.
And what impact they had in your current position.
Yeah. So I've got my undergrad BCom. So like I said, when I started, I wanted to become a chartered accountant, but I ended up dishing it, leaving it out. And so I've got a BCom as an undergrad. So whilst I was working as well, because I decided that after my undergrad, I needed to go to work because, we needed to make money, so people need to eat at home. And then I decided then to study further while I was working. So I did my honors with UNISA. So my undergrad is with University of Pretoria. And then in the journey of working as well, once I finished my honors, I then was thinking about to do a master's program, but there was a point when I was clear that I don't want to do an MBA. And the reason why I didn't want to do an MBA is that everyone has an MBA. But when they've got it, I don't see the value translate. Yeah. So, and then I thought, no, that's not what I want to do. But also, it was quite clear in my career where I want to be at some point. So one of the things I wanted to do was to work in our sort of Africa regions division. So Standard Bank is a African business, right? So, and I thought, okay, whatever that I do, it has to align with my next career steps, which is to work in the Africa regions space. And then I found this MBA program, which is in Rwanda, and also Mauritius. So there's a school called African Leadership University, which is based in Rwanda and Mauritius. They started a school of business. And that school of business, that's where now you do the MBA. And what was so nice about that MBA is that it was rooted in Africa. It was about African leaders. It was about creating leaders who can solve African problems. And the content of it was more about Africa than Western countries. If you do anything around the Western countries, it's just to do comparison of how Africa and the Western, entities are comparing over time. But yeah, so that got me interested. And what was nice about it was that it was based in Rwanda. So I'm a very big fan of the continent.
Oh.
Yeah, so I love Africa. I mean, I when I travel and I do holidays, most of my holidays are in the continent.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do
So
you have a favorite spot?
yeah, no, I think I would love to. I mean, Rwanda. I'll tell you about Rwanda a little bit more. But Rwanda is one of the places. If I were to leave South Africa, I would stay there.
Okay.
I love Ghana and Kenya as well. So yeah. So then I studied and I did my masters in Rwanda. So it was a sort of a dual program where it was part of it online and part of it is physical lessons where you go to class. But so we've got 5 blocks. And every block, when it starts, you go to Rwanda for a full week. So you start on a Saturday, probably arrive there on a Friday, but classes will start on Sunday to the next Saturday. And then on Sunday, we come back to South Africa. And then after 6 weeks, again, we go back to Rwanda. So that experience was really amazing for me. And why it was amazing is because my classmates, we were 20 African countries within a class. So which means I've got contacts and connections in 20 African countries. So that was the power of the program. So that's where I ended up with my study. So I think I'll probably think of doing something else, another master's. But for now, I think we are good. Yeah.
Do you have anything specific in mind?
Yeah, so I actually thought either I do a PhD in life coaching, because I think ultimately, eventually I want to do coaching and be coach, because I think also people don't have access to the capabilities that I have access to in the bank. And one of it is that I get coaches or mentors. And coaching is a big thing. You grow faster in your career when you've got a coach, and that's what I want to do ultimately. So either that, or I go start. I've been interested in how people think and behave, and so I might do psychology. Maybe start an undergrad in psychology.
Wow, you love to study.
Yeah.
That's a very unique trait.
Yeah.
Not everybody can love to learn more about anything.
Yeah.
Okay, that's really interesting. All right, and the masters that you did, yes, did it affect your career positively?
Yeah.
Did it add any value?
Yes, no, it did. The lessons that I've learned in that master's are invaluable. So it's stuff that I use today. The understanding of the continent and the people in the continent and our context it's stuff again that I refer to, and the network that I have. If I'm stuck on something, it's easy for me to check with someone in another country to say, hey, how is this problem being solved in that country? Any thoughts, any contacts, and people share, and now you start to see that actually maybe our situation is not as unique, so you can also borrow lessons from other spaces. So that has been very good, and also because the masters in itself is rooted on African leadership. So that in itself, that leadership lessons that I've got, particularly around being a virtuous leader, I'm using them today in how I lead my teams, and yeah.
So it seems like you've managed to climb up the corporate ladder, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
Did being a member of the LGBTQ plus shout out, being a member of that community, did that affect your corporate career, your
Yeah.
corporate life in any kind of way?
Not really. And maybe the other thing is that, when you say I remember, it's almost like a sign up. I went, so you can please have the forms and sign and join. But no, as a gay man, I think maybe it's how I deal with things generally. So, as an example, I don't come out. So the only time I came out was to my mother, which was important for me to get her acceptance. And then my matric class. And when I went to come out, I thought it was going to be dramatic, but yeah, it wasn't. So I came out and people were like, yeah, we're waiting for you to come out. We already knew that
We knew.
you are like this. Yeah, so yeah, that was an anticlimax for me. I needed drama. But from there, I decided that there's no need for me to be coming out because straight people don't come out.
That's true.
So why must I be coming out to anyone? So I must live life the way I want to live it. But interestingly, in home loans, when I was, I think I was a junior manager then, in the boardroom, before you start a meeting, people start asking each other. We start asking questions. How was your weekend? What did you do? Then people will say, me and my family, we did this, and I just said, me and my boyfriend, we went out, and that's it. And I stopped, and you could see some silence because people didn't know that I was gay. And afterwards, I remember one of my senior colleagues came and asked me that, oh, I didn't know that, you were gay. Then I was like, also, I didn't know you were straight. And I didn't know you had a wife, but, but then they got it. But so for me, it has never been an issue at all. And I know that maybe some people, it might be a challenge for them, but for me, it hasn't been. And purely maybe because of how I chose to deal this, that it's not a matter of, I go to work, I bring the authentic me to work. I'm not at work and be something else. So everybody who knows me, they would know that. We know that he's gay because, it didn't have to come out, but we understand that he's gay. He's got a partner, he's got, this is the life he lives. But it never really had a negative impact to me. Yeah.
And a little birdie told me, I'm going to go on YouTube and watch the full video because I realized that you were on Family Feud.
Yes.
How was that experience?
It was really great. And how it came about again is because in the work that I do, of making sure that we have value propositions for main market, we actually were sponsoring, part of the sponsors for Family Feud, South Africa, yeah. So because of the sponsorship element, so we had to go to Family Feud to go and participate. So yeah, it was intense, but it was fun.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any interesting questions that you answered?
I think at some point we thought we were going to lose because, this family we were playing with, they were on a high streak and we were still at 0.
Oh my goodness.
And we can imagine as bankers and, the sponsors, it was not going down well. But I think if you watch it, you'll see that I managed to save the day.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think one of the questions that they asked, which gave us high points, but also we could steal points from the other team, was around the most popular. I think the question was around the most popular holiday in South Africa.
Okay.
And then I think I answered that it's Good Friday.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it was on the board.
It was on the board.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have guessed Good Friday.
Yeah. So I think it's quite popular.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, anyway, with everything that you've accumulated in your short time of being on this earth, is there anything that you look forward to doing within the banking world still?
Yeah.
Is there something that you feel like is an unturned stone
Yeah.
that you would still like to do?
Yeah. I think I would actually want an opportunity to leave South Africa and stay at another African country. I think there's more in the continent that's going on that I would like to be part of. I think generally you find that as South Africans, we are closed to or naive to what's going on in the continent. So I would like to do that. I'd like to be, in a space where I can still, participate with what I know, my skills, to make an impact in one of the countries. So that's what I'm working towards. So potentially in the next maybe 3 years, I'll complete the stunt of my current role and start looking at how might I go to other African countries to work there.
Okay. Last but not least, I want to wrap this up by asking something personal.
Okay.
Is there somebody in your life? Should we be advertising an eligible bachelor?
No, there is someone in my life,
Okay.
and we've been together for 20 years.
20?
Yes.
Like 20?
20.
Like 2 decades?
Like 2 decades.
Wow. You're basically married.
So basically. So we've been staying together for 19 years.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's an incredible gentleman. So.
That's beautiful. Wait, if you've been with someone for 20 years, how old does that make you? Because you don't look that old.
How old do you think I am?
Definitely not within 40s.
Well, I'm turning 41
Okay.
in December.
You look good.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Okay, you go to the gym.
So go to the gym, deal with the face,
Yes,
medical
moisturize.
aesthetics.
Okay.
So I mean, I try as well to make sure that I take care of myself, because one of the things we know is that we only, you can't trade in your body and your life. It's one body, one life. If it's gone, it's gone. So there's no trade-ins. So, yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah.
And thank you for even agreeing to be part of this little thing that we have going on. And we look forward to your future endeavors. I wish you all the best of luck. Not that you need it, because you've been doing so well on your own.
Don't know, but everybody needs luck once in a while. But thank you so much. And thank you for having me. It was really great.
And hopefully people will learn and maybe even apply to the same graduate program that you are a part of, because that opens so many doors for you.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us. That's it, folks. Thanks for joining me, your host, Baloyi, and Motlatsi Mkalala. And I'm pretty sure you'll be hearing a lot more about him from my heart to yours.